The difference between a war criminal and a hero is who won. America's history with war crimes is extensive, and there's no way I can cover them all in one video, but I'm going to cover 4 of our major war crimes in this country that we don't necessarily learn in school and will never be taught in school. These are situations that have been poorly represented by our country and poorly represented by the people who run this country. For example, Japan's atomic bombs. We're going to be going into history written by the losers, what actually happened, what things actually looked like in these situations. Japan was on the forefront in World War II. Germany had already fallen, and Japan was still fighting to the bitter end, which is okay, right? The problem was that we, as America, needed them to stop doing that, right? We want to win the war. We don't necessarily need another threat like Japan continually fighting us and keeping us from ending the war. So we had to employ some drastic measures, to say the least. The most drastic of these measures were obviously launching our atomic bombs, which is widely known within local and global history. What wasn't really told is that those atomic bombs, they were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Hiroshima and Nagasaki were 2 fairly large cities in Japan. Fairly large is an understatement. They were very large cities in Japan. But they were also told to the American people that these were military strongholds. These were not military strongholds. Most of these cities held nothing more than civilians. Over 200,000 civilians, to be exact. An incountable amount of people were annihilated because the U.S. wanted to end the war. Japan soon did surrender. The problem was we now did something unforgivable to another country. As forgivable as it may seem now, and as besties that the U.S. and Japan look to be now, it's not like that. If any other country had done that to the U.S., do you think we could have forgiven them? It's just not feasible, honestly, to think that we just annihilate 2 urban centers to end a war quickly and swiftly with no other option. There were plenty of other options. We could have done anything else. Now, you can give this one a pass, but there are certain war crimes that cannot be given a pass. For example, Vietnam's Agent Orange. We were in a very, very unpopular war with Vietnam, and it was not just opposed by the Americans, it was opposed by pretty much every other country that wasn't in America's kind of network of control. No one else really wanted us to fight Vietnam because they saw no point in it, which does make sense. Neither did the Americans. That's why the boomers became super active in politics, because we were fighting an enemy that had no direct contact with us. It was really just a proxy war, our first proxy war that was so widely publicized. So with this widely publicized proxy war and this not just general feeling, but overwhelming feeling of disapproval by the American public, we did horrible things to that country. Not only physically, but even economically. We damaged their country beyond repair. Agent Orange was a very highly toxic chemical. This highly toxic chemical was sprayed everywhere. And when I say everywhere, I mean everywhere. Farmlands, even over demilitarized zones. So zones that you are not allowed to touch in warfare. A lot of these people who were affected by Agent Orange were obviously, for their entire lives, affected by this chemical. It's linked to cancer, birth defects, and it destroyed their local ecosystem and their local economies. They were not able to eat. They were not able to farm. They weren't able to do much on that land anymore. We genuinely destroyed their agriculture system beyond repair for many, many years. Now Vietnam is making quite a strong comeback, which is very good, but it is still an immense amount of damage we've done to them. They are still some of the poorest countries in the world. And not only because they didn't side with us, but because they wanted to be independent and their resistance had won. So to punish them for going against the US, we destroyed their local ecosystem, we destroyed their local economy, and we made sure they were never, ever, ever able to make money, to farm, to do anything for years and years and years. Now, even our own Americans were affected by Agent Orange. If you were in the Vietnam War, you can literally get benefits because of how deadly and how toxic this chemical was to everybody who was in that war. Their countryside has nearly 1 million gallons of unexploded Agent Orange still present in the country. Not only that, they also have millions of landmines, similar to the South and North Korean border. But this is by far from the worst war crimes we've committed. Now, our most popular and recent big warfare is Iraq's destabilization. This is a very murky one. A lot of people don't really have a lot of information on this war, surprisingly. It's the most well-documented war we've ever seen. But there's still just so much misinformation. For example, why we invaded, what the point of the invasion was, what did we gain out of it? All of that is still quite mysterious as far as our standards are. A lot of people think it was retaliation due to September 11th. It wasn't. September 11th was a catalyst for sure, but we invaded a whole separate country from what had done that to us. That wasn't the country that had wronged America so. That was a completely different thing. Iraq had claimed to, people had said that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, aka nukes, like I had talked about. And they aren't supposed to have nukes. Only certain countries are supposed to have them, right? America making their own rules up again. Now, because this country had WMDs, we thought, you know what, let's take it upon ourselves and let's actually invade their country on some sketchy information that some person may or may not have told us. By the way, these WMDs were never found in that country. We invaded on little to no evidence. It was a terrible, sloppy, disgusting invasion. Hundreds of thousands of Iraq civilians lost their lives. We were not supposed to be there. We were not supposed to do that to that country, to those people. It wasn't necessary. It wasn't needed. It was honestly a sloppy invasion. If any other country had done that, they would be in some serious trouble. We invaded on faulty information through some suspicious means to get some suspicious weapons that were never recovered. That is not what a country does. People need to talk about these things. Things need to happen before actions like this are committed. It's not what's supposed to be done in a developed, free world. This is not what America was supposed to be. We weren't meant to just invade whenever we felt like it or whenever there was some existential threat to our country. Now extremists rule that country under extremist law. It is not safe not only for Americans to go there, it's not safe for most people to go there. It's not a good country to be anymore. Lastly, the CIA's war crimes, extensive, and there is still so much classified information out there. There's not a lot that can be said positive about the CIA. In 1953, Iran's prime minister was replaced. It was the CIA. They staged a coup. 1973, US-backed forces overthrew the Chilean president. Again, it was the CIA. 1975, the Australian prime minister, he was very concerned that the CIA was building bases in the middle of Australia so the US can operate satellites on the other side of the world, right? I would be too. Imagine some foreign entity wanted to surveil your entire country under suspicious means because of security threats. I wouldn't really be okay with that either. I don't want anyone building an industrial military base in my backyard, and neither did Australia, for good reason. Shortly after, he was suspiciously thrown out, and then apparently no one ever had any issue with the US having a military base in Australia again. It's not just, coincidence, I think not moments. These are the CIA actively meddling in other countries' political affairs for our own benefit. And I don't know if that's what the CIA is supposed to do. I thought that the CIA was supposed to protect us from terrorism overseas, not to make sure we stay in power as much as possible. I thought we were supposed to be protected from actual danger, not because one country's leader disagreed with the shady practices that the US was doing, which is completely understandable, by the way. We have always in America prided ourselves on having a very, very, very strong military, we are untouchable as far as militaries come. No one can stand up against the US, which is good, right? For us, at least. What's bad about it is that we're never ever going to be able to learn what it really means to fight for freedom, because we are constantly oppressing the world at every chance we get. At every turn we take, we are not allowing any other free country to remain free. We don't want you to remain free. We want you to remain under American rule. And to do that, we need to start suspicious wars. We need to do suspicious things under suspicious circumstances to make sure you're not allowed to fight the way we don't want you to fight. You need to listen to us, or else we will ruin you, your country, we will poison your people. That is the lesson that we are being taught in America. That's not a lesson I subscribe to. That's not a lesson I believe in. That's not a lesson I agree with. I don't like that idea. I don't like the idea that if you don't listen to America, you will be destroyed at every turn by any means necessary. That's not a fun, free idea. America is the strongest nation to ever exist. Our history is heavily skewed to frame us as the good guys. But eventually, when the time of American imperialism passes, we will look back on our history and wonder how we were ever part of something so atrocious, similar to World War II. Now, there is even more recent war crimes we've committed. El Salvador, Iran. There is countless ways the U.S. has betrayed the world and other countries. More importantly, the trust of the American people. We don't trust our leaders because they hide things from us, and they keep information behind closed doors when it's convenient for them. We want clarity, and we want to actually understand what's happening. That's why there's such a deep mistrust between America and its civilians. We don't trust the people we pay taxes to. We don't trust our leaders because they have given us too many reasons not to trust them. Like, we saw, subscribe. Thanks for watching. See ya.